Jacob Marsh, fearless explorer, chuckled at the local legends. A haunted forest? He scoffed, stepping onto the mossy path. Sunlight painted the woods in shades of green and gray. An unsettling stillness hung in the air, broken only by the crunch of Jacob's boots. He shivered, a sudden chill racing down his spine. He brushed it off, pushing deeper into the woods. The forest floor was a carpet of decaying leaves, damp and spongy. Twisting branches, gnarled like skeletal fingers, reached out from the darkness. Jacob pulled out his camera, snapping photos of the unsettling beauty. A low growl echoed through the trees. Jacob paused, heart pounding, but dismissed it as his imagination. He continued, the path growing fainter with each step. The sun, now hidden behind a thick canopy, cast long, distorted shadows. He checked his compass, frowning as the needle spun wildly. Lost. He was lost. A wave of unease washed over him, cold and clammy. The forest was closing in, a living, breathing entity. Jacob pushed forward, driven by a growing sense of dread. The air grew heavy, thick with the scent of damp earth and something else. Something metallic. He heard whispers, faint and unintelligible, swirling around him. They seemed to emanate from the trees themselves, their rustling leaves carrying hushed warnings. He stumbled upon a clearing, a circle of barren earth devoid of vegetation. In the center stood an ancient stone altar, etched with strange symbols. As he approached, the whispers grew louder, morphing into guttural chants. He felt a presence, cold and malevolent, watching him. Panic clawed at his throat, choking him. Panic turned to terror as he saw them. Eyes, glowing with an eerie green light, peered at him from the shadows. They blinked, unnaturally slow, their gaze fixed on him. He was surrounded, trapped in a nightmare. He tried to scream, but no sound escaped his lips. He was frozen, paralyzed by fear. The ground beneath the altar pulsed with a faint, sickly green light. A low hum vibrated through the air, growing in intensity. Jacob felt a pull towards the altar, an irresistible force dragging him closer. He dug his heels into the soft earth, but it was no use. He was being drawn in, powerless to resist. He cried out, a desperate plea for help, swallowed by the oppressive silence of the woods. The eyes blinked again, their glow intensifying. A cold wind whipped through the clearing, tearing at his clothes, urging him forward. He closed his eyes, bracing himself for the inevitable. Then silence. He opened his eyes, surprised to find himself still standing. The eyes were gone. The chanting had stopped. He was alone, but the feeling of dread remained, a suffocating weight on his chest. He turned and ran, blindly, desperately trying to escape the nightmare. He ran until his lungs burned and his legs screamed for mercy. Stumbling, he collapsed at the base of a giant oak, its roots spread out like grasping claws. He leaned against the rough bark, gasping for breath. He was lost, hopelessly lost, and something was hunting him. The forest was alive with unseen eyes, watching his every move. He could feel their gaze on him, cold and predatory. He had to get out, had to find his way back to the path. But the forest had other plans. The path was gone, swallowed by the undergrowth. A low growl echoed behind him. He whirled around, heart pounding in his chest, and then he saw it. A figure, shrouded in shadow, stood at the edge of the trees. It was tall and gaunt, its eyes burning with an unholy fire. It smiled, a slow, predatory grin that sent shivers down his spine. Jacob scrambled back, fear paralyzing him for a moment. He fumbled for his backpack, his fingers closing around his camera. He raised it, his finger trembling on the shutter button. The flash exploded, momentarily blinding him. When he could see again, the figure was gone. He was alone again, but he knew it was only a matter of time. The forest wouldn't let him escape. He had seen too much. He stumbled to his feet, adrenaline coursing through his veins. He had to keep moving, had to find a way out. But the forest was a maze, designed to trap him. He ran blindly, desperately, until he tripped and fell, landing hard on the forest floor. He lay there, his chest heaving, his body racked with pain. He looked up, his gaze drawn to the ancient oak looming above him, and then he saw it, carved into the bark, the same strange symbols from the altar. He was trapped. The search party combed the woods, their calls echoing through the silent trees. They found Jacob's backpack, ripped and torn, lying abandoned on the forest floor. Inside, they discovered his camera, its lens shattered. The last photo showed a blurry image of the ancient oak, its branches twisted into a grotesque face. Jacob Marsh vanished without a trace, swallowed by the legend of the haunted forest. The forest remains, silent and watchful, guarding its secrets. The whispers continue, carried on the wind. A chilling reminder of the fate that awaits those who dare to enter.